Everybody. My name is Dr. Alvaro Huerta. I'm an associate professor here at Cal Poly Pomona. I'm also a fellow at the Harvard Divinity School. And we are very excited to have a guest speaker, Salomón Huerta, give a presentation on his art. This presentation is going to be more informal. So I'll be controlling the slides, and he's just pretty much going to be giving his impressions on his artwork. So it's not necessarily a formal presentation, it's more of a dialogue. So I encourage people to use the chat. The answers to any questions or comments in the chat will be addressed once the presentation is over. So we're gonna try to end 4:50 around there and give 10 minutes for Q&A. So I'm really excited for this event. I've been organizing a series of talks at Cal Poly Pomona for the last 8 years. And recently I've been working with Justin Torres, who I want to thank. He's a visiting librarian in ethnic studies. I also want to thank Dean Pat Hawthorne for allowing us and giving us the space and resources to be able to invite these excellent guest speakers that we're gonna have this fall. I also like to thank Chris Soleta. He's been very professional in working with me in the past as well, and with this photography and coordinating these events. Marilu Salcedo, a brilliant graphic designer at the library. And also Sally Romero, who's also a librarian at our wonderful library. For those of you who rely on Google for research, a library is a building and there's books in there, and then you check out the books. So one day you should go visit our library. It's pretty cool. There's a Starbucks downstairs, but you can never get a copy because it takes an hour to get there. So today's presentation, once again, is by Salomón Huerta. He's an acclaimed artist. And I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and I'll start the first few slides. I'm going to introduce him, a little bit of his background, and then once we get to the images that he's going to speak about, I'll go ahead and turn over the mic to Salomón. So for us as people of Mexican origin, it's important that we recognize our elders. And one of the things that it's important for us is to look at how our people, in terms of our parents, are ground us in terms of who we are, right? In giving us opportunities with life and encouraging us to, to be successful in life. So for me, at this point, I want Salomón to just talk a little bit about these two paintings, and I'm just going to turn off my camera for a little bit.
Let me start.
Just talk about these two paintings a little bit.
Well, the painting of my mother, I think I did it in 2003. And I wanted to do a portrait that I can also exhibit at a gallery instead of just doing a portrait out of the photo. And it's oil painting, like 12 by 12. And the watercolor of my dad, it's probably like 15 by 12. So they're just portraits, like nothing more than that.
All right, thank you with that, Salomón. So can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, my first exhibition graduating from Art Center College of Design was an exhibition of like family portraits, and they were done in the Mexican tradition of retablos. And I painted myself when I was using a photo of me when I was 3 years old. So I painted everyone in the family. And what was funny is that a lot of people in the family, a lot of my family members were upset, and some were happy how I painted them, some were upset. So, and then I realized I'm never gonna do that again. But the show is very successful, and that was my first show in 1992.
So this is a self-portrait when he was 3 years old. The good thing Salomón had cakes. I never had a cake in my family. I have to work on that. So I'll talk a little bit about this. So Salomón, and it's hard to say like about his story because we're interrelated, but Salomón was born in Tijuana, the border of Mexico and United States. And here's a picture of us. He's a tall one on the left, and I'm the better looking one on the right, the smaller one. And here we are playing with guns. And so there's an obsession with guns in our family. And he'll talk a little bit about that in one of the slides. Not in a violent way, but this is something that comes up. So in the 70s, so like I said, Salomón was born in Tijuana. He was raised there until he was 6 years old. I was born in Sacramento, but my mom came back to Tijuana, and she was working in San Diego, so she was going back and forth. She was like a transborder worker. So I'm what the racists called an anchor baby. So I was born in Sacramento just so that we can fix our papers, and then we came back, and then I was like, "Hey, Salomón, how you doing?" So Salomón and I talked, played with the guns and all that. And in the 70s, we returned to the United States, and I invited everybody to come because I was a citizen. And so we lived in Hollywood. This was a craftsman home, 3-story home. And this is, I'm not even, and Salomón can tell me if I'm lying because I tend to exaggerate a lot with the stories. At any time, there was like 30 people living there, like 20, 30 people. Our parents, our sisters, our uncles, our cousins. So we grew up with our cousins like if they were our brothers and sisters. And one of our uncles, he was a human smuggler. So there was some illegality taking place as well. So there was human trafficking taking place, and we were all part of it. They would darle de comer a los pollos, my aunt would tell me. So this is part of our history. And in the mid-70s, my mother wanted to get away from that type of environment, not the illegality part, but the living with so many people. So we moved to public housing projects. And Salomón, during this time period, is like his formative years, including myself. And this is Nico's, one of the markets in the projects. There's 3 of them: Food Gardens, Nico's, and I forget the name of the other one. But Ramona Gardens public housing projects, it's in Boyle Heights. It's also known for the name of the gang, Big Hazard. So this is a mural entering the parking lot where we grew up. So this is literally what we saw every day. What you see in this mural, this is not just the mural itself, but it's symbolic of what we experienced with the violence and the drugs and the lack of hope and desperate conditions that cause people to end up engaging in behavior that too often is more like self-destruction, right? So when we kill each other, we're literally killing ourselves in terms of when it comes to gang violence. So Salomón, like myself, well, there's a middle slide. In junior high school, we were bused to an all-white school in Mount Gleason Junior High. The first time we experienced racism. And for high school, Salomón went first to Lincoln, then Wilson, and actually followed in his steps. And in Lincoln, he was actually, art wasn't even his thing. He did do murals and everything, but it was more basketball. He was in the JVs and then in the varsity. I think he was the only Mexican that can dunk, so that was pretty cool. And after 2 years of the coach lying to him, or 3 years, he transferred to Wilson, where he graduated. So after graduation, and you could fill me in if I'm mistaken in a few things. After graduation, unfortunately, the type of schools that we went to, they really didn't prepare us to go to the university straight out of high school. So he had some odd jobs. And then eventually he ended up going to Pasadena City College, where he got in, started taking art classes. But he was already, like, since elementary school at Lincoln and Wilson, he was already into the arts. And actually in Lincoln and Wilson, he was painting murals on campus. And then when he was young, he painted a mural in the projects too, like a cartoon, and winning competitions. But just because you're good at art, just because you know how to paint or draw, it doesn't mean that anybody taught you that you can make a career of that. So Pasadena City College was pivotal in helping him realize that he wanted to become an artist. And like I said, I'm using this more like a background. So by the time he speaks, we have an idea of his trajectory. After Pasadena City College, he transferred to Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. This is the premier art design college in the world. They have the best designers. We're all the best designers for cars. This is where they go. I think even Tesla had, like, one of their main designers went to Art Center. So it's world renowned. And Salomón transferred from PCC to Art Center. I think it was in the late 80s. Yeah, mid to late 80s. And then after that, he pursued his master's. Well, at Art Center, he started to establish himself as a standout student, and where he graduated with highest honors. And then after that, he ended up going to UCLA. Now, the trajectory is not straight. There's some other things that take place in between. But in terms of his academic trajectory, Pasadena City College, and everybody in the chat, if you're a transfer student, go ahead, put in on the chat that you two are a transfer student. If you're a first generation university student, like Salomón and myself, go ahead and put that in the chat as well. So I want to see that in terms of what type of audience we have. So if you're a proud transfer student, put it in the chat. If you're a proud first generation in your family, put that in the chat. If you're a son of immigrants like us, put that in the chat. If we grew up working class as well, put that in the chat. We want to have everyone participate to the degree that Zoom allows us to participate. So he ended up going to, after Art Center, to UCLA, where he received his master's in fine arts. So take it away, Salomón.
I think, with the majority of my work, what is it about is me just trying to make art out of my past, So, like, this is my sister, Impala, and I think she was like 16 when she had this. So she would take us to the drive-in. I think it was called Fiesta 4, there in Whittier. And we would get in the trunk, because by then they would charge by, how many people in the car, not by the car. So, and after going to the drive-in, we would go cruising on Whittier. So she had this photo and I liked it. I liked the way it was cropped. I liked everything about it. I play with the colors here and there and remove a couple of things, but it's pretty much how the photo was. So I did a painting of it, and I'm really happy with it. Next. And this is like from 1994. And again, I was reflecting on my past. I'm not trying to glorify gang members or anything like that, or get attention from painting them. I'm just reflecting on my past and making art out of it. And this guy was from the neighborhood, forgot his name, but I took his picture right when he got out of jail. I asked him if I can take his picture, and I did a painting of it. And this one is probably like 48 by like 30. It's oil on on panel. And again, you know, it's just people from the neighborhood. This is a charcoal. It's probably like 36 by 28 charcoal on paper. And this is actually how the guy was, all his tattoos, you know. So there's a lot of imagery that comes from like that kind of neighborhood or that kind of environment, you know. And for me, it's really cool. Like I would ask them, can I do a drawing of you? Can I take a picture? And they always said yes, you know. So it was really fun. Next. I'm gonna jump around, you know, in terms of where the images were done. This one was done in UCLA. You know, when I went into Art Center College of Design for illustration, and I started doing personal work in one class, doing portraits of the gang members and street vendors and day laborers. And I got a lot of attention, and other teachers told me to do more of that. So I graduated my portfolio with the scholarship, pretty much with images from the neighborhood. And when I applied to UCLA, I heard that I barely got in. And that time UCLA was like a really hard school to get into for the art department. They had like the best teachers in the world, like active artists who were really famous at the time and still are. So I did a portrait of a white gang member, and this is what it is. It's oil on panel. I think it's like 12 by 12. Next. So I wanted to do at UCLA, I wanted to challenge myself, and I wanted to do portraits that I've never seen or something different. And going to UCLA, I wanted to do a body of work that anyone can relate to. So this is where this idea comes from, the back of the head. This is like 12 by 11 3/4 oil on canvas. And this idea alone, my career took off. You know, like with this idea alone, I was able to exhibit in London, Verona, New York, and the Whitney Biennial, and Mexico City, and then some other group shows around the United States and elsewhere, you know. Next. So this, again, another back of the head. And these two that you just saw, like the beginning. So my goal is to not, because I've noticed that people of color, when they do art, they get critiqued and not the art. They want to know, like, how did you become an artist, and how did you basically make it into the art scene, you know, because they're not white. So I wanted to do something where they can look at the art and critique the art without being pigeonholed as a Chicano or Mexican American or Latino artist, you know. Next. And this painting is not pretty much what I do, but this is like 8 by 8 feet and oil on panel. And I made this painting for Aslan Underground that was used for their album cover. The original imagery where I got the composition and horses and stuff is the paintings from Peter Paul Rubens. And the center pig, it was a hog. And then of course there was no gang members in the painting, but I took out the horseman and put the gang members. And this was used for Aslan Underground, the rap group, for their album cover. And this is a piece that I did at Art Center. Like, this is like 1990. And again, just reflecting on my upbringing, you know, I was in a gang from the age of 9 to 11, but it wasn't like, back then it was very fun, you know, like it wasn't, all we did is just hang out and steal things. And I would tag everyone's name on the wall, but it wasn't, the only violence is getting jumped into the gang, you know, but But other than that, it's mainly just hanging out, you know. And this is from 1992. They're 7 feet by 4 feet. Is Vero and Snipes, a couple, and Snipes lived across our house in the neighborhood. And this was painted at a funeral, you know, and cemetery. I mean, not painted, but the photographs were taken there. This is a more recent, like, you know, like 7 months ago, I wanted to paint the gang members again because I was thinking about it a lot, and I wanted to see how they would look if I paint them now. And this is an example of that. And this is 2 brothers that, of course, they're twins. The guy on the left, his nickname is Grumpy, and the guy on the right is Happy. And we've known them ever since they were like little kids, you know. And this is one of the twins from the last painting is Grumpy with his girlfriend at a cemetery. But I called it like out in the park. I just removed the plaques from the cemetery. And I'm inspired a lot by European masters. You know, in general, I love art. I don't care where it comes from. And I like one artist, his name is Edward Manet. And I take his style of painting and I insert, you know, my imagery or my upbringing into that. This is my brother, Ismael, who is posing with my brother-in-law's weapons.
Yeah, it's not a real image. It's just posing.
And this is, you know, like, again, I wanted to see if I paint the homeboys and homegirls, how would they look now? So I'm just experimenting and just having fun. And excuse me, back in the past, the women have very little tattoos as far as I can remember. I could be wrong, but I don't remember them having a lot of tattoos. But now, you know, tattoos are very popular. So this is like a contemporary like homegirl. And again, I'm just like exploring, having fun. It's very challenging to exhibit this kind of work at a mainstream gallery because the majority work that I show is like in an international kind of setting, you know.
But they have the teardrops and the 3 dots, so they would have those tattoos, but not like that.
Yeah, not the shoulder or everything else.
Yeah, that's more current that you see.
And once again, I'm just like playing around and you know, whatever I decide to show in the gallery, I like to exhibit stuff that anyone can relate to it, even if it's just from my own upbringing, you know. And I want to make it universal because I want to get this biggest audience as possible. It's just mainly that. So I forgot what year did Smokey pass away, Val?
Like 92.
The portrait on top is what's his name? Arturo
Smokey Jimenez.
Yeah. So he was killed by LA sheriff, where the LA sheriff thought he had a weapon, but he had a flashlight and he got killed. And then later the neighborhood asked me if I can be part of the mural. And the image you're looking at now, it's pretty faded because we use house paint and it wasn't even done properly. That's why it's like faded. But the portrait that I did of him, it looked a lot better, but right now it's all faded. And it took us a year because we only worked on the mural on the weekend. But my job is just to like kind of supervise and help. And all I did was the portrait. Joe Rodriguez, the artist from the neighborhood, he pretty much drew kind of everything, and it was pretty cool, you know. So I think that's the only like large mural that I ever been a part of, and I'm really happy that I was able to do one and leave it in, you know, in my old neighborhood.
Mhm.
So from the age of 9 to 16, my dad would have me bring him like snacks to his room, and I would place the snacks on the night table, and where he had the gun, his 38, like ready to go, because the neighborhood was really bad. It was like probably like one of the worst experiences of my life, that being raised where, every day you saw things that you shouldn't see as a kid. I think that's very like, it's really crazy. And you see people that are getting killed or stabbed or jumped in. So my dad had his gun ready, to protect us. So, since the age of 5, my dad would use me to cross the border with his gun. So crossing the border in Tijuana, I was like 5, 6 years old. He would place the gun in my shorts on my belt, because he knew that they were not going to inspect me. And then we crossed the border, and then he'll take me in a bathroom and take out the gun and put it inside his boot. And so that's the story of the guns. But I never was afraid of the gun, because I was exposed to the gun from an early age. And I just knew not to mess with it, So he showed me how to clean it, and he would tell me, don't touch it. But when he wasn't around, and I was like bored, I would go look at the gun, but I would check if it had bullets, because he taught me how to clean it, so I knew if it had bullets or not. And I would just look at it. I was just very like curious how this weapon can kill you. Next. So right now, currently, at Harper's Gallery in Chelsea in New York, I have a show of the guns. There's like 9 guns in the exhibition, with 1 house painting, and the show is doing very well. It's located in a really good location, with really amazing galleries, and the show is almost sold out. And we had a good attendance, and like whatever I wanted to do with this work, I achieved it. It was in the beginning, doing these paintings, it was very difficult, because I would do the painting and I would fall asleep like for 6 to 8 hours, because it was take me back to those moments, and but I'm really happy the way everything is going. And these paintings are 14 by 16, and the gallery sells them for $9,000, and I get 4,500. It's a 50-50 split. But, they only take me like 2.5 hours to do. So I'm really happy about that. Did I talk too fast?
No. I wanted to leave time for questions and answers. So, we dedicate this presentation to my brother, Noel Huerta, and I want everybody to comment. If you have questions, this is the time to do it. Okay, someone asked, did painting help Salomón process the trauma of his childhood?
Yeah, like I'm really happy that I can how you say, like that I can look at the paint, like moments from the past, and tweak it in terms of how I want to present it, and make art out of it, and kind of heal in the process of doing that. And not only heal, but I get to like celebrate. And with the money, aside from living expenses, I get to travel and buy things that I want, and just enjoy myself. So it's really amazing that I can do that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, the talk was designed in this way, so it's just a few slides, because he has like much more art to show, but this is just one theme that we worked on together. And so, someone said that he loves the pieces, and he's very impressed with Dr. Huerta because he's so smart. Oh, I added that. And he's talking about how gangs are usually portrayed in a bad light. And so one of the questions, that's the comment, the question is, what's your favorite medium or favorite tools to use in your art?
Well, I use everything from pencil, charcoal, watercolor, and oil, and some sculpture. But I think the most fun is the oil, because it's very challenging and it has limited possibilities.
That's great. I'm trying to keep up with the chat. So I'm going to merge some questions. So someone's asking, what's your process in terms of starting a new painting?
Well, like if I have an idea, and then I research artists who may be doing similar work like that. And then once I see what other people are doing, I start making sketches, and then I take photographs, and I work off the photographs. And but the reason why I look at other people, I just want to see other people's interpretation of what I'm thinking of doing.
Someone asked, how can they support their niece who wants to become an artist?
How old is she?
Okay, can someone put how old is the niece? 9.
I mean, at this age, you just have to just make art with them, expose them, like take them to museums or galleries if you know of any. And then when they get a little older, you can put them there's high schools that are geared towards the arts. And that would be a good beginning. And then they can also take like summer art programs at a community college or whoever offers that. But the whole thing is just to expose them to the arts, and you can take them to the museums like LACMA, MoCA, the Getty, and Norton Simon, and just have fun with them, have fun with them overall.
Yeah, that's great advice. When my son, I would take him to LACMA, and they had free programs for kids, so they're exposed. It's like taking, if all of you, or not all of you, but those of you who are students at Cal Poly or faculty, it's like bringing your siblings, your nieces to campus when they're really young, so they get exposed to that environment. Like I said, it's hard for me to keep up with all the questions, but we're going to save the chat. If I want everybody to respond. And somebody asked about motivation, like that a lot of parents don't understand, like if somebody wants to be something other than a doctor or lawyer, how do you motivate yourself if you want to be an artist or a poet or something that it goes against like your parents, what they want from you? So how is it that what advice do you give to people to motivate themselves to keep going when they're not supported?
I think it's best if you can find people that are doing it and they can be your role models, because I became an artist at the last minute. I was already 23 after I did 4 years at a city college, wasting my time. But during that time, I was making art. And when I would take the art to the art store to get it framed, like matted and framed, I was fortunate that I met an artist. The guy that was doing the framing and matting, he was an artist. And he was pushing me, like you should go to art school and stuff like that. But overall, the teachers at PCC were pushing me. But the main thing is to find people who are doing what you want to do, and you can use them as role models.
Thank you for that. I don't know why I'm thanking you, but appreciate that. I asked in the chat, like what's your favorite gun or gun? What's your favorite painting? So there's no right or wrong answer. It's just what attracts you to something. And someone said the concha, the gun in the concha, is something about the simplicity of it that's very impactful. Someone asked about the guns a little bit. Like, do you get some weird questions that they don't understand what you're trying to do and they might misconstrue it?
I think with the guns is a 50-50. There's 50, I've noticed from collectors, like 50% of the collectors want nothing to do with the gun. Like they don't want a gun in their house, a gun painting in their house. And the other 50 are interested in the story and interested in maybe buying the painting. But it really is not about the gun. It's just my interaction with my dad. It's more about that. So when people read the story behind, these paintings, they're able to step back and see it for what it is, and I get more support. But I don't promote violence, so I'm not trying to promote everyone to go buy a gun. But in that neighborhood that we were raised, if you didn't have a gun, then you were at disadvantage of protecting yourself, because it was a really crazy, over the top, violent neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's different moralities. If you grew up in a certain neighborhood, there's codes of conduct. If you see something bad happen, you can't talk to the cops. You have to defend yourself. If you're too weak, you're easy prey. So there's really, it's different than when you grew up in housing projects in East LA. It's not a normal reality. It has a often surreal reality. Like if you're like it's a movie. Like it's not. And everybody that comes out of it, you especially when you're there 10 years like us, you're not a normal person. Like psychologically, it impacts you the way you see the world, and so it's not normal. Like if somebody grew up in the suburbs and everything was, they never seen somebody get shot or somebody take drugs or drive by or anything like that. Someone asked about, do you have incomplete artwork, and what do you do with it? Or like, do you ever work on something, and like, what do you do with artwork like that?
No, I don't have anything incomplete. I keep on working on something till it works. And if I do a painting and it doesn't work, then I destroy it and start over but I don't have anything incomplete. I don't paint that much. Like if I don't have a deadline or a commission or an exhibition, I only do 2 paintings a month. I do a painting and then I spend a week trying to figure out why it was successful. And then if it's not successful, I spend a week trying to figure out why it was not successful. So overall, 2 paintings take me like they may take me like a day's work, but because I contemplate if it was good or not, overall it takes me a month just to do 2 paintings.
Yeah, really great. Thank you for that. Really great comments and questions. A lot of people are saying that the Chicanas that you painted, it reminds them of their cousins or people in their neighborhood. Somebody asked again, it's kind of a similar question, like when you get criticism, not necessarily today, but just throughout, since you started painting or exhibiting since 1992, we're talking 30 years now. When you have received critiques that are probably too harsh, how do you respond to them, or how do you interact with people like that?
I haven't received any bad critiques. So I don't, and then if there is people that I come across that they're not interested in my work, or they don't even want to take the time to look at it. I really don't care.
Yeah. He actually started painting relatively young, and he was able to exhibit in the Whitney Biennial in New York, and then the world's most the wealthiest gallery in the world, the Guggenheim, he exhibited there in Italy. Do you ever give paintings to your friends and family?
No, yeah, of course, I giving paintings to my friends, like for wedding gift or birthday gift, and of course to family. Yeah.
Is it hard being Dr. Huerta's brother because he's so good looking?
All
I,
good.
I added the good looking one. You have a process that people don't understand because we didn't talk about it. That if there's a painting that you created and for some reason you don't like it or you don't feel good about it, that you end up destroying it. Can you talk a little bit about that?
No, I already did. So what I do is like, if I'm not happy with the painting, then while it's still wet, I destroy it. But if it dries because I wasn't sure at the moment, then because I paint canvas over panel, I put a canvas over a panel that's more sturdy. So I destroy the canvas and save the panel and start over. I don't want to put a painting out there that I'm not 100% happy with.
Well, I appreciate that. Somebody asked a question, and I think all the questions and comments are brilliant. I'm just going to say that. And one of the reasons, because I'm texting my students, ask this question. So very analytical, and we're going to save the chat. So Solomon can review them after, because some of them are more analysis that it will do me. I wouldn't do them justice to read them out, but somebody asked a question that I think it's important. Like all the questions and comments, because this is something that concerns me too. So how is it that one in yourself, right? Like how is it that you yourself have over the years gained confidence in yourself as a painter? And I'm going to add a little bit to the question, but like as a painter and as an adult, and because this person feels that, a lot of people, especially people of color, have like this imposter syndrome where they feel like very insecure about themselves. So how did it go for you in terms of becoming a very confident person or an artist? And how is it, what advice do you give to, let's say, younger people or other people that don't have that?
Well, I became confident because I did more than the average student. So I will put in more time, and I didn't have a social life when I was going to art school or even UCLA. By then I was a little better, but undergrad I didn't. But so when I didn't do good in terms of an assignment for school, I would like do it over, do it over and do it over. So I think the teachers made me feel like that I was doing a good job, but still I was still insecure. When I got into the art world, because it's a really big market of art in the galleries, and you put yourself out there. Like when I had my first exhibition at a gallery, I was so afraid that I didn't go into the gallery. I stood outside greeting people. I was too terrified to go inside the gallery. But I got my confidence when I saw these like legendary artists that were like 20 years older than me or 30 years older than me acknowledged my work and told me that my work was good. Once they told me that they loved my work, it gave me a sense of peace, But I think if you want to build your like confidence with the work, is that you really have to go beyond 100% and don't settle and ask a lot of questions from the teacher so they give you like an honest critique, and you will build confidence in the work when they start to celebrate the work with you.
Yeah, that's a great question and response. And I mean, one thing that I've learned in the case of Salomon is that it takes sacrifice. If you want to be good at anything, you have to sacrifice. Meaning that if you're more worried about going to the movies or the beach and and doing stuff like that, which is, it's just cool to do. But when you're in school, if you're more worried about the social life than the academics or whatever your field of interest, whether it's engineering or architecture or ethnic studies, then you're always going to be average. And those that sacrifice, that ask the questions to the teachers, go to the professors, go to office hours, stay up late at night. I mean, art school it's like architecture or engineering. The type of work they assign is like a lot of times they don't sleep. How many hours in one assignment? What was like the most you didn't sleep at Art Center?
No, all my time at Art Center when I was at school, I think I averaged like 6 hours of sleep, by that time, which is okay. But and Art Center at that time was like the workload was equal to like going to medical school. That's what it came on the New York Times. And like I would do all-nighters, but like I really wanted to succeed and I wanted to do my best. So I went into the school weighing 175 and I came out weighing 145. And I'm, like I didn't see the sun at all because I would go in, well, of course I would see the morning sun, but what I mean is like, I would go in super early in the morning, like 7 and don't come out till like 12, And I didn't have money. Like my tuition was paid for a scholarship, but my mom at that time was building a house. So I didn't have money to buy food. So I had like $1 a day and I would buy rice, but the cooks were all Mexican. So I would tell the cook, can you cover it? Can you fill it up with with the carne asada and cover it with rice? And that was all that I had every day, and then sometimes I'd come late. Sometimes there'll be food and I will eat. And then towards the last year, when I was getting some support from some older artists, one artist couple saw that I was barely eating because they asked me some questions. So they asked me, you're welcome to come to our house for dinner whenever you want. And when he said that, I was there like every night. And they never kind of like got annoyed by me. They were very supportive. And I was there every night having dinner, so because I didn't have any resources to buy food,
Yeah, my mom, she was building a house in Tijuana, and she was a domestic worker all her life. Yeah, it was like that football movie where they adopted that black kid. So you're one of those got adopted. I'll answer some of these questions. In terms of art, throughout history, art has been used for social change. Picasso did a famous painting decrying the Civil War in Spain, and the artists Siqueiros and Diego Rivera in Mexico, they paint actually murals here in the United States, protesting imperialism and capitalism. So art has always been used in social movements in that regard. Somebody asked a question about, I feel like a Mexican Oprah without the $1 billion. So somebody asked a question about overcoming obstacles. Like, how is it that you were able to overcome the negative influences in the projects? And I'm adding some stuff like the gangs, the drugs, the violence, the poverty, being on welfare, things like that.
I just didn't think about it, I went to school and like going to school in the morning was like had to like go through a lot of obstacles and seeing like drug addicts, whatever, or coming back from school also was like making sure that I was safe to go into the house because there was like gang members hanging out and they just want to cause trouble. So I would get home like at 2 a.m. sometimes. But like everyone at Art Center thought I had money because everyone that was going to Art Center pretty much had money. And when they found out that I was in the projects, they were like in like complete shock, like when I told them, but I told them towards the end, like my last year, because no one asked. And I was pretty naive, I was just very naive. And so I would just go, but I just didn't think about those things. I wasn't putting my attention there.
We have a few more minutes left. Someone asked, how do you know when a painting is done?
Well, for me is when I just have no desire to add anything to it, and there's a feeling of that is complete. It feels complete, and everything is balanced or harmonious. Like nothing gets my attention that is sticking out or like that it shouldn't be there. But it just gives me a sense of like of peace.
And then someone asked about the art, and there's a lot of the questions they ask about your ethnicity. So how do you feel your art, how do you want it to live on?
Like I've been very, like, when I came into the art scene, I noticed that people of color, like I said before, they were personally getting critique instead of the art. So I didn't want that. I wanted the art to get critique. I didn't want to get pigeonholed and be limited to only like as a community artist or artists that would only show with artists of color. I wanted to show everywhere. So that's why I went to grad school to build that kind of body of work. But I forgot the question again.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. We're about to doing this for an hour is kind of tiring. Well, a lot of everybody, as far as I'm concerned, in the chat are asking excellent questions. The comments are wonderful. The longer comments, it's hard for me to read them, but we're going to save the chat. Someone just commented that they just love Salomón, and he's very engaging, and the work is very meaningful. So I do want everybody to comment, and this is a time to say something that you like. That's what I want everybody to do, because it's very important, I think. Not that he needs it for his ego, but when it comes to Mexican Americans, we have few role models, and too often when we see ourselves in Hollywood, and I'm just speaking about Mexican Americans because that's where my brother and I come from, our background. Too often when we see ourselves in the movies and TV, we're like drug dealers and rapists and murderers and all these negative things in society, and rarely do we see and promote people that made it out of these circumstances in terms of public housing projects that the United States built and they created for us. So that to me, it's something that I always want young people, especially my students, to learn from, because a lot of times when those of you that are going to school right now, you might feel like you're broke, like you only have 19 bucks in your account and you can't even pull it out because you need 20, and you might feel like nobody's there for you, or you want to give up. And I know for my brother and I, going to the university, the best schools in the world, it's not easy, and a lot of times you will have people that will tell you, you're not going to make it. So it's important that we see that people like Salomón that grew up where he was born, it was what they call like an informal settlement. It's like a slum. I don't like to use the word slum, but that's what it was. There was no running water. The bathroom was outside. There was no roads. It was on a hill. Literally people just make their own homes out of just wood and tires. It was that's what we were born into. So with Salomón, when he talks about like he doesn't want to be pigeonholed as a Mexican American artist or Chicano artist, he's not saying that he's not proud of who he is and his heritage and where he comes from, because people misunderstand that as well. And if you can see, like in the artwork and the art, it reflects when he's showing homeboys and homegirls, he's showing them as human beings, like he's showing them like their humanity. Or when he paints our parents, these are beautiful people. These are immigrants. These are people my father was, or our father was a farm worker. He was a bracero. And then later day labor and odd jobs. And my mother was a domestic worker. So for Solomon to be painting and exhibiting in the best galleries in the world and to show brown people in the same training that you would see the masters exhibit in Europe. But instead of having these white European figures, he's showing brown people, not as cholos and cholas or domestic workers, but as human beings and humanizing them through the art and showing the beauty of them. So I always support anybody, not just because he's my brother, but anybody that is engaging and doing work that shows that those of us who come from these communities, working class, sons and daughters of immigrants, that we have a lot to contribute, and we have contributed, but only if we're given the opportunities to do that, right? Only if we're given the opportunities to do that. So for our cousins and other siblings that didn't go to the university, it's not that they weren't as smart or as driven or anything like that. It has nothing to do with that. It's just that they weren't given the opportunities that Salomón and I were given to go to the university. We have different trajectories. I went straight to UCLA and later to UC Berkeley for the PhD. And he went the community college route and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the idea here is to look at individuals like ourselves. And when we're talking to young people or people that are not young, because we're not young anymore, to show that it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter where you come from. It matters where you're going, and always be proud of who you are, in terms of your people, your family. And I must say, a lot of times, I don't know how Salomón feels about this, but a lot of times when we were growing up, we were embarrassed, growing up in the projects, or embarrassed that our parents were immigrants, didn't speak English, and later on we realized, we internalized that racism, that America teaches us to hate ourselves. So for me, I just want everybody, we're about to wrap up, applause for Salomón, show some love, people. And thank you again to everybody at the library. Is an amazing library, from the dean to the librarians to the staff. I'm in 2 departments. I'm in ethnic and women's studies and urban and regional planning. So, I appreciate the support that I received there. Our dean, our new dean from where ENV, joined us, and others that are not just students from Cal Poly Pomona, but also from other CSUs, to really showcase and have the opportunity to see somebody's artwork and have that person speak, that is really represented, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best artists, period, in terms of in our time. And to get there, it wasn't easy. He ran into a lot of obstacles just to get to school and coming back, with everything that we had to go through in life, in the projects. But at the end of the day, to showcase that, if you grew up like us, if you're given the opportunity, you can also dream big and be successful. And a lot of times success is not necessarily how much money you make or how many degrees, but it's like the impact that you have in society. So like we say in East LA, muchas gracias.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.